Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Hopefully, you guys had a great weekend. And just a couple things while we start this video. Remember, I will be online today for office hours at 10:45. If you guys have any questions, stuff you're not getting, stuff you don't understand, you need to get on there and make sure you're asking me questions. Have specific ones from homeworks or from notes that you need to ask about. Don't get in there and just be like, I don't know what to do. I don't get it. That's not going to help you. You need to make sure that you're asking specific questions. And it looks like our first test is going to be Friday. So that's going to be me sending you a test and you completing it and making sure that you get that done and turned in by the end of the day. So you're going to be able to use your notes on that. So if there's anything in your notes that you're not getting, you definitely need to make sure you ask that this week. And like I said, Monday, Wednesday, I have office hours. That's probably a really good time to do that. So also just remember, a lot of you are messaging me through Google Classroom, which is probably the worst way to contact me. If you send a remind or an email, that's going to be way better for you, because I'm going to check those things a whole lot more than I do the Google Classroom chat. So make sure you guys are doing that. Today we're going to talk about cube roots. We've been talking about square roots, but we're going to talk about a couple other things that you probably don't know about. And I'm not sure how far I will go. I think I might just do like the basics today and then post the solving stuff tomorrow, just to give you some practice. Or if I can just get in the groove, we might keep going. And then I'll just send you maybe some problems to do tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. So we talked last week about square roots. We talked about perfect squares. Something like the square root of 49. And we said that means we're looking for what number times itself is 49. And we said that square roots always have two answers, because we could do positive or negative 7. If we do 7 times 7, it's 49. We do negative 7 times negative 7, that's also 49. So square roots, perfect squares are ones that come out to be integers, and they have two answers, right? We talked about all that stuff last week. But what we did not talk about is there are several other types of roots. So if there are square roots, remember, they get their name because 7 squared is 49. So the square root of 49 is 7 and negative 7. So this exponent is called, to the second power, is squared. This is called a squared root. There's really a 2 on the outside over here that's assumed to be there. So all square roots, they don't actually type in that answer, or that 2. They just are, you're supposed to know that they're there. So there are other types of roots. In fact, any number of a root you can think of is a real thing. There's eighth roots of stuff. And that just means the same thing as a square root, only square roots are what number times itself. So this number times itself, 7 times 7 is 49. An eighth root would be what number times itself 8 times. So 2 times 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 2 would give you a number. The eighth root of that number is 2. Right? So in particular, we want to talk about cubed roots. The cube roots. And again, other roots are going to have a number out here. Square, if you don't see a number, it's always assumed it's a square root. Cube root is the same thing. It just means what number times itself 3 times. So there's a number times itself times itself. That gives you 8. And maybe you're thinking of that at home. and you came up with the fact that it's 2, right? Because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So the cube root of 8 is 2. But then there's the question, is it positive 2 and negative 2? Right? Does this have 2 answers like square roots do, like we talked about last week? That's a really good question. You tell me. Here we see it out. If I do negative 2 times negative 2 does negative 2, does that still give me positive 8? Yes, Trevor? In the back? No? Nothing? Bohaj, maybe you? No. Well, negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. 4 times negative 2, now it's going to be negative 8. So this one is kind of interesting. It only has one answer. So what's the difference between why does it matter if there's 3 of them or if there's 2 of them? Well, we know that a negative times a negative is going to come together to give me a positive. The problem is if there's 3, there's an extra negative here. And we know that a negative times a positive is going to get us a negative. So, if it's an even root, right, the 4th root, the 6th root, something like that, square roots, those are going to have 2 answers because there's an even amount of negative signs. They're going to cancel each other out as they go. If it's an odd root, like a cubed root, which is what we're going to deal with mostly, then there's only going to be one answer because there's going to be an extra negative at the end that's going to make our answer negative. So, what does that mean? Well, a couple things for us. That means I can have something like this. The cube root of negative 27. If you try to square root with a negative on the inside, it's going to give you an error. You're not allowed to do that because there's no way to multiply a number by itself to give you a negative. But in a cube root, you can. That's negative 3. Because negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. And 9 times negative 3 is negative 27. So in a cube root, I can have a negative on the inside. Ooh, you guys probably want to know how to do that in your calculator too. Yeah, I wish I had one to show you. But I can tell you which buttons you need to hit. If you remember from last week, you have this x squared button, and above it, there's a square root sign, right? Well, I don't remember what button is above that. But that one has a root, but it has a little x up here. That's the button we're going to use to do any root that's not a square root. And what you have to do to use this is you first have to put in what you want x to be. So let's say I wanted you to do the cube root of 125. Right? That means what you're going to do is you're going to hit the 3 button first. And then you're going to hit second. And then you're going to hit this button. I don't know what it is. I think is it the caret? Maybe? I don't know. I think it might be the caret button. Looks like that. Whatever this button is. We'll say it's that. We're going to hit that. Okay? That's going to pop this up for you. So your screen's going to have a 3 and then an x root, like that. Then you can type in whatever number you want. So 125. Hit enter, and it should give you the cube root of 125. Go ahead and try it in your calculator and see if you can get the answer, which should be 5. Because 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. Those are cube roots. So if you've noticed, all of our cube roots turned out really nice so far. So maybe you're sitting there thinking, oh, I bet cube roots are always rational numbers, right? Well, you're wrong. The cube roots that we have been dealing with are called, I bet you can't guess, perfect cubes. Perfect cubes are just like perfect squares, right? Except for we're doing a number times itself 3 times. So for example, 1 is a perfect cube because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. We did 8 already. That's 2 times 2 times 2. We did 27. 3 times 3 times 3, right? All of these numbers are perfect cubes. So some of the questions on your test are going to say something like, describe this number as a perfect square, a perfect cube, or neither, or both, right? If we picked 1, 1 is a perfect square because 1 times 1 is 1. It's also a perfect cube because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So perfect cubes, these special numbers, you can mess with them. You know, I have those memorized too, but not as well as my perfect squares. Like 216 is 6, 7's 343, is 8 512. Something like that. 7's 7 or 9 is 729. So they show up. They're still important, and they're rational. That's the important part. All the perfect cubes are rational because, of course, we can write 8, the cube root. If I did the cube root of 8, not the 8th. Cube root of 8. I know I can write that as a fraction because it's just 2 over 1. So, if you have a cube root and it's a perfect cube, that's a rational number. If you don't, if you have a cube root and it's not a perfect cube, so maybe you have the cube root of 20. Well, I don't know what the cube root of 20 is because I can't think of a number times itself 3 times that'll give me 20. That's because it's not a perfect cube. So this number I know is irrational. All cube roots, just like square roots that are not perfect, are still going to be irrational numbers. Yeah, okay, so we talked about cube roots. You can find them in your calculator. You can figure out if they're decimals or not from that. Remember, you can use Desmos. I should write that out for you. Desmos. Maybe what I'll do is inside Google Classroom under the resources, I'll make a link to the Desmos calculator. And then you can play around on there. But it has cube roots if you can't figure out how to do it on your calculator. You can definitely do it on the Desmos calculator. And it will tell you if it's a perfect cube or not. So that'll tell you if it's rational or irrational. Yeah, I think we're going to wait till tomorrow to solve them. So, yeah, this video is already a little longer than I want it to be. So, that's cube roots. They're the same as square roots, just a little bit different. Hopefully that's a pretty good picture. You should be able to be okay trying your problems. And if you need something, make sure you reach out, talk today at office hours. Get to work on your homework. And like I said, you're going to get a review later this week. That's going to be all about stuff that's going to be on your test. And be looking for that test on Friday. Remember, these are real grades, even though you're not in school. So if you are not putting in the effort and you bomb all this stuff, just realize that we're going to be having the same conversation again next year because you're going to be sitting in my class. So please, please, please take this seriously and make sure you ask if you have any questions. Don't wait till Friday when you have your test because I won't be answering any then. All right. Let me know. Hopefully I'll see you later in the chat or in office hours. You guys have a good rest of your Monday. Later.